An arrogant UFC champion calls out an aging boxer at a Brooklyn community center, mocking the old trainer who spent 40 years teaching kids to fight with honor. The cocky fighter shoves the 72-year-old man hard, threatening to shut down the gym where inner-city youth find hope. His cameras roll as he boasts about making boxing extinct, demanding someone prove him wrong. But the quiet man working the heavy bag in the corner isn't just another washed-up fighter. This is Mike Tyson. The UFC punk has no idea, he just challenged. The most devastating knockout artist in heavyweight history. A man who spent decades perfecting the science of destroying human bodies with his fists. The champion's bodyguards laugh as their boss calls out, the fat old-timer, completely unaware they're watching their employer sign his own death warrant. Even at 58, those hands have crushed bones and ended careers, and now they're rapping. For one more lesson in respect. What happens when a loudmouth MMA fighter meets the real baddest man on the planet? Can modern martial arts survive even one round with raw, primal violence? What happened next would haunt the UFC champion for the rest of his pathetic existence. Before we jump back and tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The rusty fire escape groaned under Mike Tyson's weight as he climbed toward the Brooklyn rooftop, a bag of pigeon feed clutched in his scarred left hand. 5:30 in the morning, and the city still slept beneath a blanket of pre-dawn darkness. His knees protested. 58 years took their toll, even on Iron Mike, but the birds waited. He pushed open the coop's wire door, and 30 pigeons stirred to life, cooing their recognition. "Morning, champions," he whispered, his famous lisp softening the words. The ritual never changed. Fresh water first, then feed, then the individual check of each bird. His thick fingers, once instruments of destruction, now gently examined wings and beaks with a caretaker's precision. Einstein, his favorite roller, nuzzled against his palm. The bird's pearl-white feathers reminded him of Cuz D'Amato's hair. In those final years. "You miss him too, don't you?" Tyson murmured. The old trainer had been gone 20 years, but mornings like this brought him back. The smell of the gym, the sound of speed bags, the feeling of purpose when everything else was chaos. A Birmingham roller with a bent tail feather triggered a darker memory. Rahway State Prison, 1994. The bird he'd kept in his cell, the only thing that didn't judge him for what he'd done. 3 years of feeding that bird through bars, talking to it about shame and redemption while the world moved on without him. His phone buzzed. 7 missed calls from ESPN, 4 from TMZ, 3 from numbers he didn't recognize. All deleted without listening. The media still circled like vultures whenever his name surfaced, hoping for controversy, for the old Mike to emerge. They didn't understand. That man was buried deeper than any left hook could reach. The sunrise painted Brooklyn in shades of amber and rust. From up here, he could see Brownsville stretching out below, the neighborhood that had birthed him and nearly killed him. Crack vials had littered these streets in the 80s. Now it was gentrification doing the killing, just slower and with better paperwork. Tyson scattered the last of the feed, watching his birds peck and flutter. In the ring, he'd been a destroyer. Up here, he was a protector. The simplicity of it, feed, water, shelter, gave him peace that all the championship belts never could. He glanced at his watch. 6:45. Time to go. The Marcus Garvey Community Center opened at 7, and Pop Washington liked punctuality. Tyson secured the coop, testing the lock twice. These birds depended on him, just like the kids at the center. The descent was harder than the climb. His body remembered every punch absorbed, every round fought, every morning after when he'd wondered if it was worth it. At the bottom, he paused to catch his breath, looking back up at the coop. The pigeons circled overhead, free but always returning home. He pulled up his hood against the morning chill and began the 10-minute walk to the center. Brooklyn was waking up, bodegas lifting their metal gates, buses groaning to life, the city's heartbeat quickening. Mike Tyson, once the most feared man on the planet, disappeared into the morning crowd, just another aging black man heading to work. But his hands, buried deep in his pockets, still remembered how to make the world shake. The back door of the Marcus Garvey Community Center opened with Tyson's personal key, a privilege earned through 2 years of showing up. The familiar smell hit him immediately. Old leather, pine disinfectant, and that particular scent of hope mixed with desperation that clung to every inner-city gym. Mike, Earl Pop, Washington's voice carried from the equipment room. You're 3 minutes late. Getting soft on me? Tyson smiled, hanging his jacket on the same hook he used every morning. Traffic was murder. Had to knock out 2 pigeons just to get through. Pop emerged carrying a fresh roll of hand wraps, his 72 years showing in the slight stoop of his shoulders, but not in his eyes. Those remained sharp as a judge's scorecards. Young Malik called. Says he'll be here early. Got hassled by the cops again last night. Same corner. Same corner. Same suspicion. Same bullshit. Pop tested the heavy bag chains, a ritual as old as his tenure here. Boy's got talent, Mike. Real talent. But that anger. I know about anger, Tyson said quietly. The front door banged open at 7:30 sharp. Malik Jefferson stormed in, 17 years of rage packed into a lean frame that hadn't finished growing. Fucking cops, man. Where you going? Where you been? Like I can't walk in my own neighborhood. Language, Pop said without looking up from the equipment check. Sorry, Pop. But damn, sorry. It's just. Malik's fists clenched and unclenched, looking for something to hit. Tyson stepped forward, holding up the focus mitts. Show me what you got. For the next 20 minutes, Malik's combinations thundered against the pads. Left, right, left hook. Duck, weave, uppercut. The kid had speed, natural timing, and that hunger you couldn't teach. But his form broke down when emotion took over, wild shots replacing technique. Breathe, Tyson instructed. Anger makes you stupid. Breathing makes you dangerous. More kids filtered in for the before-school program. Deshaun with his little sister Keisha. The Rodriguez twins, who never missed a session. Aisha, 13 and tougher than most grown men, already wrapping her hands like a pro. Malik, Tyson said between combinations, tell me about your week. Not the cops. School. Got a B+ on my history test. The admission came between punches. Teacher said my essay on the civil rights movement was compelling. That's what I'm talking about. You hit those books like you hit these mitts. Nobody can stop you. Pop supervised the younger kids, shadowboxing, while Tyson worked with Malik. This was the rhythm that kept him sane. The squeak of sneakers on canvas, the rattle of speed bags, the grunt of effort from kids choosing sweat over streets. At 8:30, Pop called everyone for breakfast. The community center's kitchen wasn't much, but they kept cereal, fruit, and juice stocked. Tyson helped serve, noticing who needed extra portions, whose shoes were held together with duct tape, whose bruises didn't come from sparring. The mounted TV played New York 1 News on mute, closed caption scrolling. Tyson caught his breath when he saw the headline. UFC champion Brock Malone TO visit Brooklyn Community Center today. Pop noticed his reaction. Yeah, that's here. 3 o'clock. Some publicity stunt for his next fight. The Mauler? Malik's eyes lit up. Yo, he's nasty. 22-0. His ground and pound is what? Pop interrupted. Better than Ali's jab? Smoother than Sugar Ray's footwork? Son, that boy fights in a cage. We build warriors in a ring. There's a difference. The news showed Malone's highlight reel. Kimura locks and head kicks, opponents tapping out or going limp. Tyson watched silently, reading the fighter's movements. All flash, no foundation. The kind of fighter who'd never been truly hurt. You staying for his visit? Pop asked. Tyson's first instinct was to leave. He avoided cameras, despised the modern fight game's theatrics. But something in Malik's eager expression changed his mind. The kid needed to see the difference between fame and greatness. Yeah, he said finally. I'll stay. Pop clicked off the TV and shook his head. 3 o'clock. Brock Malone and his circus coming to our house. The words hung in the air like a challenge as Tyson helped stack breakfast dishes. Through the kitchen window, Brooklyn was fully awake now. Delivery trucks battling for position, mothers pushing strollers, old-timers claiming their bench spots for the day's gossip. Champions Give Back Tour. Pop muttered, returning to the gym floor. More like Champions Show-Off Tour. These young fighters today. He didn't finish, but his meaning was clear. Cut to Brock Malone's penthouse gym in Manhattan, 10 a.m. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park while the UFC champion shadowboxed for his phone camera, muscles gleaming with carefully applied oil. Yo, Mauler Nation, he shouted at the lens. About to head to Brooklyn. Show these old heads what real fighting looks like. Some community center still teaching that sweet science bullshit. He threw a spinning heel kick that would have looked impressive if it hadn't been practiced 1,000 times. Time to educate the uneducated, you feel me? Vincent Russo, immaculate in a $3,000 suit despite the gym setting, checked his Rolex. Remember, Brock, this isn't just about content. That building sits on prime real estate. These photo ops grease the wheels for redevelopment. Whatever, Vinny, long as the check clears. Malone grabbed his championship belt, holding it up, for another selfie. Besides, what they gonna do? Box me? He laughed, the sound sharp as broken glass. Back at the community center, 2:30 p.m., Tyson worked with the after-school group, 8-year-olds who could barely reach his waist. He knelt on the canvas, letting them practice their stances, their tiny fists held high with serious expressions. Protect your chin, Maria. That's it. Anthony, stop trying to knock out your shadow. Technique first. These were the moments that mattered, not the countless interviews asking about his past, not the documentaries trying to psychoanalyze his demons. Just him, the kids, and the simple transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next. Mike. Pop appeared at his shoulder. Maybe you should take off early. You know how these publicity things go. Cameras everywhere, questions about everything. Tyson considered it. The smart move was to leave, avoid the circus, protect his peace. But Malik was across the gym, working the heavy bag with focused intensity, stealing glances at the clock. The boy had never said it, but Tyson knew. Malik watched every UFC fight, studied Malone's matches on his phone during breaks. Heroes came in different packages for different generations. I'll work with my birds after, Tyson said. The kids shouldn't see me run from anything. Pop nodded slowly. Just remember, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody no more. Not trying to prove anything, just trying to be present. Through the front windows, expensive cars began cruising past, scouts for the main event. Black Escalades with tinted windows, a Mercedes van with UFC wrapped on the sides. The neighborhood kids pressed against the fence, phones out, ready to capture celebrity. Malik jogged over, sweat darkening his t-shirt. Yo, Mike, you ever meet any UFC fighters? A few. Most of them respect the old school more than you'd think. Malone doesn't. Seen his interviews. Says boxing is like learning Latin dead, language for dead sports. The hurt in Malik's voice was subtle but real. This gym, these traditions, they meant something to him. Then maybe, Tyson said carefully, he needs a vocabulary lesson. At 2:55, the cavalcade arrived in force. Doors slammed. Voices carried. The energy in the gym shifted, anticipation crackling like static before a storm. Tyson moved to his usual corner, began working the heavy bag with slow, methodical precision. Just another day. Just another workout. Just another test of who he'd chosen to become versus who he used to be. The double doors of the Marcus Garvey Community Center burst open like a ring entrance, and Brock, the mauler Malone strutted in trailing entourage and arrogance. His crew fanned out immediately, 2 bodyguards in matching black tactical gear, a social media manager with 3 phones, a cameraman already filming, and his trainer Jorge lurking in the background like a guilty conscience. Damn, this place is vintage, Malone announced, his voice pitched for the cameras. Like stepping into a time machine. What is this, 1985? He prowled the gym floor, designer sneakers squeaking on canvas that had absorbed decades of sweat and dreams. His fingers found the duct tape on a heavy bag and peeled it back theatrically. Yo, somebody get this on video. This is what happens when you don't evolve, people. You end up training on equipment held together with prayers and tape. Pop Washington stepped forward, dignity wrapped around him like armor. That bag's produced 3 Golden Gloves champions, son. The tape's just character. Pop. Malone drew out the nickname like an insult. Golden Gloves? Man, that's like bragging about winning a typewriter contest in the computer age. Boxing is dead, Pops. MMA is the evolution. We don't just punch. We kick. We grapple. We submit. 3-dimensional fighting for 3-dimensional athletes. The disrespect hung in the air like smoke from a cheap cigar. Every kid in the gym had stopped training, watching their mentor get dressed down by this peacock in UFC gear. Boxing teaches discipline, Pop said evenly. Respect, honor, things that Things that don't sell pay-per-views, Malone interrupted, playing to his camera. Look around, old man. This place is a museum, and you're the main exhibit. Malik Jefferson had heard enough. The 17-year-old stepped between Pop and Malone, fists already clenched. Yo, back up off Pop. He's forgotten more about fighting than you'll ever. Dante, Malone's larger bodyguard, moved faster than his size suggested. One meaty hand shoved Malik backward, sending him stumbling into the ring apron. Step back, kid. Adults are talking. In the corner, Tyson's gloved hand froze mid-strike against the heavy bag. The sound of leather on canvas ceased. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge the confrontation, but something in the air changed. The temperature seemed to drop despite the gym's inadequate ventilation. Malone, oblivious to the shift, continued his performance. See, this is the problem with boxing gyms. Teaching kids outdated moves for outdated times. MMA is science. Boxing is superstition. We study leverage, angles, submissions. You guys still think it's about who can take the most punches to the head. He demonstrated with exaggerated movements, throwing sloppy haymakers while making cartoon sound effects. His crew laughed on cue. The community center kids watched their sanctuary get mocked, their traditions ridiculed, their father figure humiliated. In my gym, Malone continued, we call boxing the standing nap. Just two dudes hugging it out until someone gets sleepy. Real fighters use every tool. Real fighters evolve. Pop's hands trembled slightly, but his voice remained steady. Real fighters protect their community. Real fighters lift others up. What are you protecting, son? What are you building besides your Instagram following? The question hit too close to truth. Malone's smirk hardened into something uglier. I'm building a legacy, Pops. What's your legacy? This broke-ass gym that's about to be a parking lot? Vincent Russo chose that moment to step forward, gold pinky ring catching the fluorescent lights. Speaking of which, in the corner, the heavy bag swayed gently, abandoned. Tyson still hadn't turned around, but his stillness had weight to it now, like the pause between lightning and thunder. Yo, Malone called out, noticing the lone figure for the first time. Who's the fat old-timer? Someone's uncle? Somebody should tell him hogging the equipment is bad gym etiquette. The question hung in the air for a heartbeat. 2, 3. Then, with deliberate slowness that made every eye in the gym track the movement, Mike Tyson began to turn around. Recognition dawned across Brock Malone's face like a slap. His cocky grin faltered for half a second before returning twice as wide, twice as fake. Holy shit. Mike Tyson. Iron Mike. He turned to his cameraman. You getting this? We got a legend in the building. Tyson stood perfectly still, sweat darkening his gray t-shirt, hands still wrapped from working the bag. His expression remained neutral, but his eyes, those eyes that had once paralyzed grown men across ring canvas, tracked Malone with predator patience. Damn, champ, what happened? Malone circled him like a hyena testing a lion, looking a little thick around the middle. Pigeons got you fat and happy? Or was it all those years of taking shots to the head? The disrespect came in waves. Malone, playing to his online audience, pulled up old headlines on his phone. Says here you went bankrupt. 300 million to nothing. That's almost impressive. Like, you have to try to fail that hard. Still, Tyson said nothing. His silence had weight, made the gym feel smaller. Then there's the rape conviction. Malone's voice dripped false sympathy. 3 years in prison. Must have been tough for the baddest man on the planet. Did they make you join the boxing program there too? Teach cons that sweet science? Pop moved toward them, but Malik held him back, sensing something building in the air like barometric pressure before a storm. And let's not forget the ear. Malone laughed, mimicking biting motions. Evander Holyfield, 1997. You literally ate another man on live TV. That's not boxing, Mike. That's a cry for help. That's what happens when you can't evolve, when all you got is violence and no intelligence. Tyson's jaw muscles worked slowly, the only sign that Malone's words were landing. Around them, the community center kids watched their hero get dissected for entertainment. Look at him, everyone. Malone addressed the room like a TED Talk. This is your boxing legend. Broke, convicted, washed, still hanging around gyms like some punch-drunk uncle trying to relive glory days. He pulled out his UFC championship belt, holding it high. This is what evolution looks like. I'm 28, undefeated, getting paid millions to do what he did better. Mixed martial arts made boxing obsolete. Made guys like him obsolete. He stepped closer to Tyson, close enough to smell the arrogance. Tell you what, Mike. Here's your chance to prove boxing isn't completely dead. Show these kids their hero isn't just another old man telling stories about the good old days. Unless you're scared? I mean, I get it. You're what, pushing 60? Probably can't even go one round anymore without gassing out. The cameraman zoomed in, catching every angle of the confrontation. Malone's social media manager typed furiously, crafting hashtags for maximum viral impact. Come on, Iron Mike. Malone's voice pitched higher, sensing victory in Tyson's silence. Where's that famous rage? Where's the killer? Or did the pigeons and the prison time domesticate you? Tyson finally moved, but only to turn back to his heavy bag. He threw one more combination, left hook to the body, right uppercut, left hook to the head, each punch landing with a sound like thunder. Then he stopped, gloves dropping to his sides, still facing away from Malone. That's what I thought, Malone crowed. Iron Mike's gone soft. The mockery might have ended there, just another viral moment of disrespect, if Vincent Russo hadn't decided to twist the knife. The developer stepped forward, expensive shoes clicking on the worn gym floor, waving a manila folder like a weapon. While we're here, Russo announced, might as well handle some business. He produced an eviction notice with theatrical flair. Mr. Washington, the Marcus Garvey Community Center is 3 months behind on rent. My company owns this building, and frankly, we've been more than patient. Pop's weathered face crumbled. The city funding got delayed. You know that. We filed. The paperwork doesn't pay bills, Russo interrupted. This dump is sitting on prime Brooklyn real estate. You got 30 days to clear out, then we're demolishing. Luxury condos, maybe a Whole Foods on the ground floor. Real improvement. For the neighborhood. Improvement. Pop's voice cracked. This place saved 100 kids from the streets. From prison. From death. That's improvement. Malone laughed, slapping Russo on the back. See, Pops? Even your building's evolving past you. Natural selection. Baby. The weak get replaced by the strong. It was then that Pop Washington, 72 years old with arthritis in both hands, made his stand. He stepped directly into Malone's space. Chin up, shoulders back. You don't know nothing about strength, boy. Strength is Malik coming here instead of slinging on corners. Strength is single mothers working 3 jobs to pay for their kids' gloves. Strength is, Malone's shove wasn't hard, but it didn't need to be. Pop stumbled backward, his bad hip betraying him, arms windmilling for balance. He caught himself on the ring ropes, barely avoiding the canvas, dignity hanging by a thread. Malik surged forward. Pop, but Dante's massive frame blocked him. Again, one hand pressing against the teenager's chest like a wall. Stay down, kid, Dante growled. This ain't your business. Everything's business now, Russo said, checking his phone. That's the new Brooklyn. Adapt or get bulldozed. Speaking of which, we're converting 7 properties this year. Every community center, every boxing gym, every relic of the past. Progress doesn't wait for nostalgia. Malone pulled out his phone, filming Pop's struggle to straighten up. This is what happens when you don't evolve, Mahler Nation. You end up like this. Old, broke, about to be homeless. Natural selection at its finest. That's when it happened. The sound came first, leather hitting canvas with a rhythm like war. Drums. Tyson was working the heavy bag again, but differently now. Each punch landed with focused violence, the bag jumping on its chain, the metal screaming protest. His body language had changed, shoulders rolling with each strike, that peekaboo stance emerging from muscle memory. The gym fell silent except for the brutal percussion of his fists. Apologize to Pop, Tyson's voice came out quiet, almost conversational, but it carried the kind of menace that made prehistoric humans invent fire to keep the darkness at bay. He still hadn't turned around. Excuse me. Malone's bravado flickered. I said apologize. To Pop. Now. Malone forced a laugh, but it came out thin. Or what, old man? You'll eat me like Holyfield? The punching stopped. In the sudden silence, everyone could hear their own heartbeat. Slowly, with the deliberate patience of an avalanche choosing its moment, Mike Tyson turned around. His eyes had changed. The peaceful pigeon keeper was gone. The monster had woken up. Or what? Tyson repeated Malone's question, his voice carrying that soft menace that had terrified a generation of heavyweights. Or we settle this like men. Unless you're just here for the cameras. The air in the Marcus Garvey Community Center crackled with anticipation. Kids pressed against the walls. Pop Washington, still gripping the ropes, watched with mixture of pride and concern. Even Malone's crew sensed the shift, the cameraman unconsciously stepping back. You serious right now? Malone tried to maintain his swagger, but his voice pitched higher. You want to fight me? Mike, I'm 28. You're collecting Social Security. 1 round, Tyson said simply. 3 minutes. Boxing rules. Proof. Everything you've been saying. Russo started to protest, but Malone's ego had taken the wheel. His entire brand was built on never backing down, especially not on camera. You know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. When I knock out Mike Tyson, I'll be a legend forever. Terms, Tyson continued, methodical as a surgeon. If I lose, I do your whole publicity tour. Every podcast, every interview. I'll say you're the greatest combat athlete ever lived. I'll say boxing is dead and MMA is the future. Malone's eyes lit up, seeing dollar signs and viral fame. And when you lose? If you lose, Tyson corrected. Russo tears up that eviction notice. Signs the building over to the community. Permanently. Every property he's stealing, he gives back. Now wait a minute. Russo stepped forward, but Malone waved him off. Deal. The UFC champion said quickly. 1 week from today, we'll use Barclays Center. Vinny can set it up, right? Russo nodded reluctantly. His mind was already calculating angles, side bets, ways to profit from this unexpected development. Legal contracts, Tyson added. Binding. No backing out when you realize what you signed up for. Whatever, old man. Your funeral. Malone turned to his crew. Matter of fact, why wait? Let's give these kids a preview right now. Show them what happens when boxing meets evolution. Jorge, Malone's trainer, tried one last intervention. Brock, this isn't smart. He's a heavyweight. Was a heavyweight, Malone corrected. Now he's just heavy. Give me some gloves. Pop limped to the equipment shelf, hands shaking as he pulled out 2 pairs of 16-ounce sparring gloves. Mike, you don't have to do this. Tyson accepted the gloves with quiet reverence. Yeah, Pop. I do. The crowd formed a rough circle. Phones out, recording history. Malone bounced on his toes, throwing flashy combinations at air. Tyson methodically wrapped his hands, each loop precise, meditative. The transformation was happening in real time. The peaceful man who fed pigeons was disappearing, replaced by something primal. No ref needed, Malone announced. I'll try. Not to hurt him too bad. Professional courtesy for a legend. He winked at his camera. Even washed-up legends. Tyson pulled on the gloves, working his fingers into familiar position. Muscle memory flowed back like water finding old channels. He stepped into the circle, assuming his peek-boo stance. Hands high, chin tucked, body coiled like a spring. For the first time since he'd entered the gym, Brock Malone looked directly into Mike Tyson's eyes. His bouncing slowed. Whenever you're ready, Tyson said softly. The monster was fully awake now, and it was hungry. The circle tightened as Malone and Tyson faced off in the makeshift ring. No bell, no referee, just 2 men and 30 years of evolution between them. Malone opened with his UFC stance. Wide, low, hands loose, ready for takedowns that would never come in a boxing match. Let's go, old man. He threw a flashy question mark kick that Tyson simply stepped inside, the technique useless at close range. Another kick, spinning this time, all show and no substance. Tyson moved forward steadily, cutting off the circle, herding Malone like a sheepdog working its flock. Quit running, someone yelled, but it wasn't clear who was running. From whom? Malone threw his first punch. A lazy jab meant more to measure distance than damage. Tyson slipped it by millimeters, his head movement still smooth after all these years. The counter possibilities flashed like neon signs, but he waited. Let the young lion roar first. Growing frustrated by Tyson's silence and stalking, Malone rushed in with a combination copied from YouTube highlights. Tyson weaved through them like a ghost, each miss making Malone more desperate, more reckless. Then it happened. Malone overextended on a right hand, dropping his left just 6 inches too low. In boxing, 6 inches is a canyon. Tyson stepped inside with that familiar sudden violence, his left hook traveling maybe 18 inches but carrying 58 years of perfected technique. The punch landed exactly where the liver hides beneath the ribs, that bundle of nerves that, when properly struck, shuts down the body's entire electrical system. The sound was wet and meaty, like a baseball bat hitting a side of beef. Malone's nervous system short-circuited. His legs disconnected from his brain, his diaphragm seized, his stomach contents rose in violent revolt. He dropped not like a fighter taking a knee, but like a marionette with severed strings, landing on all fours. The bile came immediately, splattering across the gym floor he'd mocked minutes earlier. His body convulsed, lungs refusing to draw air, every nerve ending screaming betrayal. The UFC champion who'd never been truly hurt was getting a masterclass in what boxing could do to a human body. Jesus Christ, Jorge whispered, starting forward, but Tyson held up one gloved hand. That's your liver, Tyson explained calmly, like a professor teaching anatomy. Protected by your ribs unless someone knows exactly where to hit. The angle, the timing, the placement. He knelt beside Malone, who was gasping like a beached fish. I hit you at maybe 30%. 30. You understand what that means? Malone's eyes, wide with panic and pain, showed he was beginning to understand perfectly. Tyson stood, removing his gloves with deliberate care. Around them, phones captured everything. The vomit, the gasping, the complete destruction of an undefeated fighter by a single punch from a man old enough to be his father. 1 week, Tyson said to Russo, who stood frozen in shock. Have your lawyers here tomorrow morning with the contracts. Real ones. Binding. He turned to Pop, checking the old trainer was steady on his feet. Then to Malik. Get a mop. Champions. Always leave the gym better than they found it. Malone, helped to sitting position by his mortified crew, managed to wheeze out, What the fuck? That's boxing, Tyson said simply. That's what you called outdated. 1 week. You'll get the full lesson. He walked toward the back door, pausing only to add, Next time, I'll use both hands. The door closed quietly behind him. Malone remained on the floor, introduction to real violence complete. The Brooklyn rooftop was still dark at 5:30 a.m. when Tyson's fists cut through the morning air. Shadowboxing came back like breathing. Slip left, hook to the body, pivot right, uppercut. His body protested each movement, joints stiff with age and inactivity, but the patterns lived deeper than muscle, coded into his DNA. Looking sharp for a dead man. Pop Washington's voice came from the fire escape. The old trainer climbed slowly, carrying 2 cups of bodega coffee and a notebook yellowed with age. Felt that liver shot in my dreams, Tyson admitted, accepting. The coffee, like my hand remembered before my brain did. Pop settled onto an overturned crate, flipping through pages covered in cramped handwriting. 6 days to get you ready. Been up all night planning. We'll need to be smart. Can't train like you're 25. How we looking? Like David fighting Goliath, except David's got arthritis and Goliath's been studying YouTube. Pop's smile took the sting out. But David knew anatomy too. That's what we build on. By 7 a.m., they descended to the community center to find 12 kids waiting in the pre-dawn cold, Malik at the front. Word had spread through Instagram and Street Telegraph. Mike Tyson was training for real, and Brooklyn wanted to witness. 6 miles, Tyson announced, stretching muscles that hadn't run in years. Anybody falls behind walks home. They jogged through Brownsville as the city woke up. Past corner stores lifting gates, past bus stops filling with workers, past everything. Gentrification hadn't touched yet. The kids matched Tyson's pace, pride overcoming exhaustion. Malik ran alongside, peppering him with questions between breaths. Why'd you stop at 1 punch yesterday? Wasn't there to hurt him. Just educate. But he disrespected Pop, disrespected all of us. And in 1 week, he'll learn what that costs. But rage without purpose is just violence. Violence with purpose, that's justice. Back at the gym by 8:30, sweat-soaked but energized, Tyson began the real work. Heavy bag combinations, each punch thrown with scientific precision. Pop called out body parts like a twisted anatomy lesson. Liver, solar plexus, floating rib, temple. The muscle memory flowed back faster now. His body might be older, thicker, slower, but it remembered the sweet spots, the angles that turned human bodies into broken machines. Young sparring partners arrived, local. Amateurs honored to help, terrified to engage. Tyson worked with them gently, teaching more than punishing. Don't reach, he corrected one kid. Reaching gets you slept. Everything comes from your feet up. By noon, his gray shirt was black, with sweat. The lawyers arrived as promised. Russo's team looking like mob lawyers from Central Casting. The community center's pro bono counsel checking every line twice. Tyson signed between rounds on the heavy bag, barely reading, trusting Pop's oversight. This is binding, Russo's lawyer warned. You lose, you do the full publicity tour. Every show, every podcast, saying Malone's the greatest fighter alive. Tyson's signature flowed across the page, sweat drops blurring the ink. He's not. The contracts were barely dry when Malik lingered behind, helping Pop straighten equipment. The other kids had scattered to school or streets, but something weighed on the teenager's mind. My cousin Deshaun works at City Hall, Malik said carefully. He heard Russo's name in some meetings. Bad meetings. Tyson paused, towel around his neck. What kind of bad? The kind where they whisper instead of talk normal. Deshaun said, meet him tonight if you want details. That evening at 6 p.m., they gathered in Pop's small apartment above the corner bodega. Deshaun arrived looking over his shoulder, a folder thick with photocopied documents clutched against his chest. He was Malik's opposite, soft where his cousin was hard, careful where Malik was reckless. Vincent Russo isn't just some developer. Deshaun began, spreading papers across Pop's kitchen table. He's connected to the Torino crime family. Not made, but does their dirty work. Property acquisition through intimidation. The documents told an ugly story. 7 community centers across Brooklyn, all closed in the past 2 years. Each followed the same pattern. Funding mysteriously cut, violations suddenly discovered. Communities displaced for luxury development. The Torinos laundered money through the construction. Russo got his percentage. Neighborhoods got destroyed. Why help Malone? Pop asked, studying a map marked with red X's where centers once stood. Gets deeper. Deshaun produced surveillance photos. Malone owes heavy to Torino bookies. Started small, betting on his own fights, easy money. But he got cocky, bet against the wrong people. Now he's in for $3 million he doesn't have. Tyson absorbed this silently, understanding the angles now. So Russo owns him. Completely. Every fight purse goes straight to payments. This publicity stunt with you? It's about building Malone's brand for bigger payoffs. They need him famous, not just successful. Malik's fists clenched. We should tell everyone. Expose these motherfuckers. Language, Pop said automatically, then softer. And that's evidence for court, not the streets. We do this legal. Legal doesn't stop them from hurting people now, Malik protested. They researched deeper, laptops and phones revealing the web of corruption, property records showing shell companies, construction permits approved in record time, a system designed to devour communities and digest them into profit. At 9 p.m., Deshaun had to leave, looking nervous. Be careful. These people don't play. You're not just fighting Malone, you're fighting their whole machine. After he left, silence settled over the kitchen. Pop finally spoke. This changes things, Mike. It's not just about boxing anymore. Tyson stared at the map, each red X representing hundreds of displaced families, scattered communities, broken histories. His phone buzzed, reporters wanting statements, promoters smelling money. He ignored them all. Pop, Malik said suddenly. What if Mike loses? What happens to us then? Pop started to answer, but Tyson cut him off with quiet certainty. Call him. Tell him none of this changes anything. I gave my word. The old trainer made the call while Malik watched Tyson with new understanding. This wasn't about ego or proving boxing's relevance. This was war for their survival, fought in 3-minute rounds. Wednesday morning brought the circus to Brownsville. News trucks lined the block outside the Marcus Garvey Community Center like an occupying army. ESPN, Fox Sports, TMZ, local news, everyone wanted a piece of the story that had exploded across social media. Tyson versus Malone, legend versus new blood. Tyson slipped through the back entrance at 6 a.m., ignoring the shouted questions and camera flashes. Inside, Pop had already arranged the day's training schedule on his clipboard, military precision applied to ring warfare. They're offering $50,000 for an exclusive, Pop mentioned. HBO wants a documentary crew to follow. No. Tyson was already wrapping his hands. This isn't entertainment. Let them talk to air. The training intensified. Local boxing gyms sent their best sparring partners, hungry young heavyweights who'd grown up on Tyson highlight reels. They came expecting a payday and a story. They left with bruised ribs and newfound respect. Kenny, a Golden Gloves champion half Tyson's age, lasted 2 rounds before tapping out. He doesn't move like he's 58, Kenny told his corner. Ice pack pressed to his ribs. He moves like he's pissed off. By noon, social media had verdict. Hashtag Iron Mike returns trending worldwide. Someone leaked cell phone footage of the morning sparring. 3 seconds of Tyson slipping punches and countering with body shots that folded trained fighters. The betting odds, which opened with Malone as a -200 favorite, shifted to -150 by lunch. Malone responded within hours, posting videos from his own camp. Spinning kicks, ground-and-pound demonstrations on grappling dummies, his usual flashy repertoire. But observers noted the nervous energy, the way he kept checking his phone between takes. Iron Mike's looking good for a senior citizen, Malone told his camera, forcing bravado. But boxing shape ain't MMA shape. He's training for the wrong sport. I'm training to end careers. Jorge stood in the background of every shot, looking increasingly uncomfortable. He'd studied the leaked footage, recognized what others missed. Tyson wasn't just in shape, he was hunting shape. The difference between athlete and predator. Pop structured the afternoon around technique refinement. They studied Malone's fights on an iPad, Tyson absorbing patterns with chess master focus. He drops his left hand when he kicks, Pop noted. Every time. And look, he backs straight up under pressure. No angles. Habits, Tyson murmured. Pretty habits that no one's punished yet. The community center filled with supporters throughout the day. Old heads who remembered Tyson's rise. Kids who knew him only as the Pigeon Man. Mothers grateful for the sanctuary he helped protect. They brought food, encouragement, their presence a reminder of stakes beyond winning. By 6 p.m., Tyson submitted. To the recovery routine Pop demanded. Ice baths that made him curse. Stretching sessions with a physical therapist who volunteered time. A nutrition plan that eliminated everything that made life worth living. Monk mode, Pop called it. 6 days of sacrifice for 3 minutes of war. Tyson endured it all, letting his body remember what championship preparation felt like. Pain was just nostalgia in a different costume. In the ice bath, he closed his eyes and felt 20 again, hungry again, dangerous again. The monster wasn't just awake anymore. It was getting stronger. Thursday morning shattered the peace at 5 a.m. when Malik discovered the community center's windows spray-painted with blood-red threats. Dead man walking, and back down or burn down. The security cameras hung from their mounts, wires cut clean. Russo's boys, Malik said, taking photos for evidence. Sending messages. By 7 a.m., the intimidation escalated. Pop arrived to find all 4 tires on his ancient Honda slashed. Rubber ribbons on asphalt. His hands shook, not from fear but from rage at the cowardice of attacking an old man's car. Throughout the morning, families with kids in the boxing program received anonymous calls. Whispered threats about accidents, about immigration status, about what happens to people who support lost causes. Maria Gonzalez pulled her twin boys from the noon session, tears streaming as she apologized to Pop. I'm undocumented, she whispered. They said they knew. I can't risk my babies. At 2 p.m., Malik burst through the doors, face twisted with fury. His grandmother had received an eviction notice despite being current on rent for 40 years. The building, another Russo property, another family targeted for supporting Tyson. They can't do this. Malik's voice cracked between man and boy. Grandma's lived there since before I was born. It's our home. Dante and 2 other Russo soldiers sat in a black Escalade across the street, making their presence known. Not doing anything actionable, just watching, reminding everyone that Russo's reach extended beyond the ring. Tyson arrived for afternoon training at 3 p.m. to find Pop trying to calm panicked families. The old trainer looked defeated, shoulders bowed under weight that had nothing to do with age. Maybe we should, Pop started. No. Tyson's voice cut through the chaos. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts he hadn't used in years. Some numbers from boxing days, others from darker times. Connections made in prison when survival meant knowing who to call. Brother Kareem? It's Mike Tyson. I need help. By 5 p.m., 4 cars bearing the Nation of Islam's Fruit of Islam Security Force pulled up outside the community center. Kareem Muhammad, who'd protected Malcolm and Lewis in their time, now gray but still imposing, embraced Tyson at the door. Heard you were defending the community, Kareem said. We don't let our people stand alone. The security team took positions, professional, visible, unintimidated by Russo's thugs. The Escalade across the street suddenly found urgent business elsewhere. Parents who'd fled in fear began returning, strength found in numbers and organized protection. That evening at 8 p.m., Tyson knocked on the door of a rent-controlled apartment in East New York. Malik's grandmother, Ethel Jefferson, answered with tears still wet on her cheeks. Mrs. Jefferson, Tyson said gently, your home is safe. Your grandson is safe. I give you my word. How are you going to fight all of them? She asked. Russo got judges, police, the whole system. Tyson held her weathered hands in his scarred. One at a time, ma'am. Starting with Malone. They want to take our homes. First they got to take my hands. Walking back through Brooklyn's darkness, Malik beside him, Tyson felt the weight of what he'd promised. This wasn't just about boxing anymore. This was about whether communities could survive when money decided they shouldn't exist. You scared? Malik asked quietly. Every fighter's scared, Tyson replied. Fear means it matters. What matters is what you do with scared. The community center glowed ahead, protected now, defiant. Round 1 was surviving. Round 2 was fighting back. Friday morning brings a surprising interruption to Tyson's training routine. Pop looks up from his notebook as the gym door creaks. Open. Standing there is Evander Holyfield, dressed in a crisp track jacket, extending a peace offering in the form of a knowing smile. Thought you could use a few old tricks, he says. Tyson nods silently. The two men embrace. No words needed. Past battles have forged a mutual respect that now sharpens into alliance. By mid-morning, Lennox Lewis calls in on video from London, giving tactical advice on how to handle modern strikers like Malone. Pop jots down every word, eager as a young cornerman again. Roy Jones Jr. arrives unannounced shortly after, volunteering as a sparring partner. Despite his age, he moves like lightning, testing Tyson's timing and making the gym buzz with excitement. Social media catches fire with photos of all three legends together. Commentators across platforms begin calling it boxing's last stand. Malik and the younger fighters in the gym are starstruck, witnessing history. Malik whispers to another teen, this is what it means to stand for something. At 2 p.m., a delivery boy walks in with an old-school Western Union telegram. Pop reads it aloud with a chuckle. Kid, knock this punk out. Boxing forever. DK. Don King, even in absence, remains theatrically supportive. Later that evening, the men gather around an old fight reel projected on the gym wall. They analyze Tyson's prime fights, and Pop points out what remains sharp in Tyson's style. Your power's still there, Pop says, but your heart, that's the difference now. The chapter closes with Tyson sitting alone under the gym's dim lights. Malik approaches, watching Tyson tape his knuckles. You ready? The boy asks. Tyson responds with a calm certainty. I'm not fighting for the past anymore. I'm fighting for the future. That same Friday night, in a high-rise penthouse in Midtown Manhattan, Brock Malone sits alone in front of a flat-screen TV. Footage of Tyson's greatest knockouts plays on a loop. The young champion paces, unable to sleep, his bravado waning. Each brutal clip chips at his confidence. He rewatches the clip of his own body folding under Tyson's liver shot, replays it 5 times, grimacing. His trainer Jorge enters the room, carrying a laptop with notes and fight breakdowns. Mike's slower, but smarter. Don't underestimate his timing, he warns. Malone brushes it off, those sweat beads on his forehead. He's just a boxer. I'm a complete fighter. Their tense moment is broken by a knock. Vincent Russo, with 2 well-dressed but menacing men in tow, enters. You've got this, champ. But let me be real clear. You lose this, we all lose a lot more than money, Russo says, voice silky but with underlying threat. One of the men cracks his knuckles. Malone gulps. Russo hands Malone a small glass vial. Insurance. A few drops in his water, just before the fight. Won't kill him. Just make him cramp. He'll fold, and you stay on top. Malone holds the vial, staring at it like it might explode. Jorge turns away, clearly uncomfortable. I don't need that, Malone mumbles. Sure you don't, Russo smirks. But I suggest you keep it close anyway. He nods to his enforcers and leaves, the air thick with unspoken menace. Alone again, Malone returns to the footage. Tyson, prime and present, stares through the screen. For the first time in his career, Malone doesn't feel like a predator. He feels like prey. He punches a nearby pillow in frustration, knocking over his phone. It lands face up, still playing Tyson's slow, deliberate stare from the day at the gym. The chapter ends with Malone muttering to himself in the mirror, he's just a boxer. Just a boxer. Saturday dawns crisp and cool in Brooklyn. At the Marcus Garvey Community Center, Tyson's final training session is short but intense. Pop watches with pride as Tyson shadowboxes with blinding speed, sweat pouring. After 6 grueling rounds, Pop calls it. That's enough. Rest now, you've earned it. The rest of the day is about reflection. At 2 p.m., Tyson walks the Brooklyn streets of his youth, places once filled with violence, now calmer but still weathered. He visits the old house where Cuz D'Amato once trained him, now abandoned. He runs his hand along the brick wall, remembering a time when discipline saved him from destruction. Back at the rooftop pigeon coop around 5 p.m., Tyson feeds the birds and talks softly to Einstein, his favorite. They don't know, cuz. They think I'm done. But I've still got it. I can feel it coming alive again. At 7 p.m., Malik and his grandmother arrive with a warm container of cornbread and baked beans. Tyson smiles, inviting them to the rooftop. The three share a quiet dinner as the city lights flicker on below them. Malik finally asks what everyone's been wondering. Why risk everything, Mike? Your legacy, your health? Tyson stares out into the skyline. Because if we don't protect the people who can't protect themselves, then what's it all for? He gently hands Malik a pigeon cage. Inside is a small bird with flecks of gold. Her name's Justice. She's yours now. Teach her to fly and never let her be caged. As the evening fades into night, Malik nods, understanding more than he can say. Tyson's eyes drift upward, his body calm, but his spirit sharpening like a blade. Sunday, 4 a.m. Tyson awakens before dawn, naturally, just like fight days of old. His body feels heavy, but his mind is sharper than ever. After light stretches and meditation, he prepares a simple breakfast. No entourage, no noise, just steel, resolve. At 6 a.m., he listens to his old training mix on a dusty cassette, James Brown, Marvin Gaye, Nas. The beat builds slowly as he wraps his hands with monk-like precision. In the mirror, the peaceful man disappears. In his place, the return of Iron Mike. By 8 a.m., Pop arrives in a rental van with Malik and 2 gym volunteers. The drive through Brooklyn is surreal. Crowds cheer along the route, holding signs. Boxing lives and fight for the block. At 10 a.m., they enter Barclays Center through the fighter's entrance. Inside, Tyson's dressing room is sparse. No posters, no sponsors. Just a chair, a table, and Pop's old stopwatch. Tyson tapes his fists again, slowly. Each layer carries weight. Pain, redemption, duty. At noon, the commissioned doctor checks him over. Blood pressure a bit high, but nothing alarming. You still got that look, the doc mutters. Tyson doesn't respond. Meanwhile, Malone arrives through the VIP entrance. Cameras flash, but he looks pale. His movements jittery, his eyes darting to every shadow. Jorge stays quiet. No jokes now, only dread. Back in Tyson's room, the old fighter stands before the mirror in solid black trunks and black shoes. No logos, no slogans. Pop sets a chair. In front of him, places Tyson's old robe across it, and leaves it untouched. Time to walk the road as you are. The chapter ends at 5 p.m. Tyson sits quietly as Pop tightens the final wrap on his left wrist. Malik places a small pigeon feather in his glove tape. Tyson smiles faintly. The battle is near, but for once, he's not walking into the ring for himself. He's doing it for all of them. Barclays Center pulses with energy. At 6:30 p.m., every seat is filled. 19,000 fans shouting, cheering, waiting. Spotlights sweep across the rafters. Camera crews buzz like hornets. Outside, the line stretches for blocks, with overflow fans watching from giant screens in the plaza. Backstage, Malone stands in front of a mirror. His muscles are tense, fists wrapped too tightly. Jorge adjusts his gloves, murmuring instructions, but Malone isn't listening. He's staring at his reflection, searching for the champion he used to believe in. At 8:30 p.m., the lights dim. His entrance music, an aggressive EDM remix, explodes through the arena. Flames shoot skyward. His entourage follows, all wearing matching tracksuits. He jogs to the cage-roped ring, high-fiving fans, shouting, shadowboxing, trying to look fearless. But his eyes betray him. Backstage, Tyson waits alone. No music, no entourage, just Pop, Malik, and silence. At 8:45 p.m., a voice crackles over the PA. In this corner, Iron Mike Tyson. The arena erupts. Thunderous, deafening. Tyson appears. At the tunnel's edge in plain black trunks, black shoes, no robe. His walk is slow, measured. Eyes forward, jaw set. He doesn't wave, doesn't smile. The crowd parts like the sea as he climbs the steps. Malone paces in his corner, trying not to look. But when Tyson enters the ring, he finally turns. There, eyes meet. For a long, burning moment, no one speaks. Even the commentators go quiet. Pop stands behind Tyson and places his hand on his shoulder. It's just another round, champ. Just like the old days. The chapter ends with Michael Buffer stepping into the spotlight, drawing out the introductions. As he begins, "Let's get ready to rumble." The arena shakes. The fight of the decade, between a lion in winter and a wolf in his prime, is about to begin. At 8:59 p.m., the fighters stand at center ring. Referee Jay Nady gives final instructions. Malone bounces on his toes, nodding mechanically. Tyson doesn't move. His eyes are locked on Malone, unblinking, unreadable. Malone tries to match the stare, but falters. He shifts his feet, glances at Nady, then at the floor. Tyson doesn't blink once. The intimidation is surgical. "Touch gloves," Nady says. Malone extends his right hand. Tyson doesn't move. He simply turns and walks back to his corner, leaving Malone's glove hanging in midair. The crowd gasps, then erupts in cheers. Back in the corner, Pop dabs Tyson's forehead with a towel. "You broke him already. Now finish it clean." Malone jogs in place, trying to refocus. Jorge whispers desperate last-minute advice. "Stick and move. Use your kicks. Don't get close." The lights dim further, save for one spotlight over the ring. Buffer's voice booms. The undefeated UFC light heavyweight champion, Brock the Mauler Malone. The response is mixed. Loud cheers, but also rising boos from Tyson's Brooklyn faithful. And his opponent, the former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson. The crowd detonates. Tyson doesn't raise his fists or smile. He just bobs his head, slipping left, then right, body already falling into rhythm. Nady steps back, bell in hand. "Ready," he shouts. Malone nods nervously. Tyson nods once. The bell rings. Tyson explodes from his corner like a missile. Malone circles left immediately, dancing on the balls of his feet. He throws a leg kick, fast, loud. It lands on Tyson's thigh with a slap. Tyson doesn't flinch. Malone throws another. Tyson eats it, keeps advancing. He presses forward with a high guard, the classic peekaboo stance bobbing like an engine. His footwork herds Malone toward a neutral corner. At 0:15, Tyson slips a jab and throws a short right to the ribs, fast and brutal. Malone winces, backing up. Tyson follows with a left hook to the body. The thud echoes. Malone tries to clinch. Tyson ducks, shoves him backward, and throws a right to the temple. Glancing shot, but the intent is clear. Malone looks rattled. 0:30. Malone attempts a takedown, shoots low. Tyson sprawls perfectly, balance unshaken. Hooks under Malone's arms, lifts, and pushes him away like a child. Crowd erupts again. Commentators stunned. Tyson's takedown defense is real. 0:45. Malone goes defensive, gloves up, breathing heavy. Tyson slips a jab, pivots inside, lands a thunderous body hook. Malone groans and drops to one knee. Referee starts the count. Pop watches intently. "Don't let him off the hook," he murmurs. At 0:55, Malone gets up at the count of 8. His hands are low. His legs wobble. Tyson doesn't rush. He advances. Patiently, predator mode. At 1 o'clock, Tyson slips a final jab, and the look in his eyes hardens. He's seen enough. He's ending it. At 1:01, Tyson closes the distance like a freight train. Malone throws a desperate jab. Tyson weaves under it and drives a hook into the liver, sickening, sharp. Malone's mouth falls open in agony. Tyson follows with a left to the ribs, then a right to the solar plexus. Malone staggers sideways, clutching his side. The crowd is on its feet. At 1:15, Tyson traps him on the ropes. He throws short, piston-like shots, left to the ribs, right uppercut, left to the chin. Malone tries to cover up, but Tyson's punches find the gaps. At 1:30, Malone's mouthpiece flies out from a glancing blow. Nady pauses the action briefly. Malone staggers to his corner to retrieve it. He looks at Jorge. "Throw the towel," he whispers. Jorge looks to Russo at ringside. Russo glares, shakes his head violently. "No," Jorge says softly. "Not yet." Action resumes at 1:40. Tyson walks straight to Malone, feints left. Malone flinches hard, too hard. Tyson dips, launches the uppercut from hell. Time slows. Malone's feet lift. His body turns mid-air, a grotesque ballet of pain. At 1:45, he crashes to the mat, flat, motionless. Mouthguard dangling. Legs splayed. Nady waves it off. No count. The fight is over. Silence falls for half a second. Then, detonation. The crowd explodes into a tidal wave of sound. But Tyson doesn't celebrate. He drops to one knee beside Malone, checking his pulse. A medic rushes in. Tyson places Malone's hand gently on his chest and whispers, "You're gonna be okay, son." Malone's eyelids flutter, barely conscious. Pop climbs into the ring and pats Tyson's back. "You did it," he says. "No," Tyson murmurs. "We did." At 1:46, Malone lies sprawled across the canvas, his chest heaving in shallow bursts. Tyson kneels beside him, gently lifting his head and checking his breathing. The crowd watches in stunned silence. No gloating. No fists raised. Paramedics rush in with a stretcher. Pop leans through the ropes. "He's all right, champ," he says quietly. "You held back just enough." At 1:50, Malone's eyelids flutter open. He tries to sit up, fails. Tyson steadies him, whispers something no one hears. Whatever it is, it makes Malone nod. "Referee." Jay Nady raises Tyson's hand. Flashbulbs explode. Commentators speak in reverent tones. A knockout, but also a resurrection. At 1:55, as Malone insists on standing with help, the crowd erupts again. Despite defeat, he raises one hand. Tyson offers his arm. The two men share a quiet moment in the center of the ring. Enemies turn symbols. Down at ringside, Vincent Russo tries to disappear into the crowd, but a hand clamps on his shoulder. Two FBI agents, in plain suits, flash badges. "Vincent Russo, you're under arrest." "Rico, conspiracy, intimidation, fraud." He's cuffed and walked out past stunned spectators. Malik, phone in hand, records everything. His footage had been quietly passed to the authorities earlier that week, sealed Russo's fate. At 2 p.m., Michael Buffer makes it official, winner by knockout. 1 minute and 45 seconds into round one. Iron Mike Tyson. The arena explodes. But Tyson simply raises Pop Washington's hand instead of his own. Malik leans over the ring apron, wide-eyed. "You see, kid," Pop whispers. "Strength don't come from fists. It comes from knowing when to use them." As medics wheel Malone out on his own feet, the crowd applauds, more for the spirit than the fight. Tyson exits quietly, towel draped over his shoulder, surrounded not by fame, but by purpose. Inside the locker room, Tyson sips water slowly, sweat still glistening on his brow. Malik hands him a towel, but his hand trembles. He's still processing what he witnessed. "You didn't just knock him out," Malik whispers. "You changed him." Pop leans against the wall, smiling. "That's what legends do." Jim Gray from Showtime enters with a camera crew. "Mike, do you have a minute for the people at home?" Tyson nods once. Gray begins the post-fight interview as, "Cameras roll. You said this wasn't about legacy. What was it about?" Tyson looks into the camera. "It was about showing kids like Malik that strength ain't just about being feared. It's about being respected, and about standing up when the ones who need help can't fight for themselves." Gray thanks him. The footage spreads within minutes. Malone, being examined by doctors down the hall, watches the interview from a monitor. His jaw is swollen, ribs wrapped, but his expression is calm. For the first time in years, his eyes are clear. At 2:15 p.m., he returns to the ring entrance. The crowd is still lingering, buzzing. Malone takes the mic to Pop Washington and to everyone here. I'm sorry. I let my ego speak for me, and I lost. But tonight, I learned. A beat of silence. I'm donating my fight purse to the Marcus Garvey Community Center. Every dollar. Roaring applause. Pop blinks back tears. At 2:20 p.m., a detective approaches Tyson backstage. We wanted you to know, it's official. With your boy Malik's footage and Russo's arrest, we're seizing over a dozen illegally transferred properties. Most of them were community centers. Tyson nods, lips tight. As he leaves the arena with Pop and Malik, a reporter yells, Mike, what's next? Tyson looks over his shoulder with a half smile. Breakfast. Then we rebuild. 1 month later, the Marcus Garvey Community Center is reborn. The gym gleams with new lights and flooring. Championship belts from the past hang on freshly painted walls. A full-sized regulation ring stands in the middle, donated by Showtime and signed by legends. It's Monday morning, 7 a.m. Pop unlocks the front door and flips on the lights. Kids are already waiting outside in line, gym bags slung over their shoulders. Malik, now officially registered as an amateur boxer, leads warm-ups. He's confident, composed. The scar over his eye now looks like a badge of honor. Jab. Move. Don't lean in. He shouts. His form? Sharp. His tone? Familiar. Malone arrives at 9 a.m. wearing a black hoodie and jeans. He walks in alone, no cameras, no entourage. A hush falls. He bows to Pop and offers a handshake. I'd like to teach here. MMA conditioning, grappling defense. Respect first. Pop nods slowly. Respect earned is respect given. Malone smiles, then kneels to tie a boy's glove. Left goes over right, lil man. By noon, the gym is filled with the sounds of laughter, pads popping, sneakers squeaking. Outside, a press conference announces that Russo has pled guilty to multiple federal charges. He'll serve 15 years. His entire property empire is being redistributed through a community land trust. 5 other centers across Brooklyn are saved. At 3 p.m., Malik wins his first sanctioned amateur fight in a gritty 3-round decision. Pop hugs him ringside. Tyson isn't there, but Malik glances upward, knowing he's watching from somewhere. That night, the center holds a celebration. Hundreds of families gather with food, music, and shared stories. The marquee above the entrance reads, "The House Iron Mike rebuilt, no statues. No banners. Just kids punching heavy bags with purpose." The fight is over, but the mission is just beginning. Tuesday morning, 5:30 a.m. The Brooklyn sky is lavender and gold. Tyson climbs the fire escape to the rooftop. His gait is slow but steady. He carries a small bag of feed, a thermos of tea, and a quiet piece. Malik is already there, sweeping up the pigeon coop. He looks over his shoulder and grins. Thought I'd get a head start. Tyson chuckles. She's still biting you? He asks, nodding to Justice, the gold-flecked pigeon. Every morning, they work side by side in silence, releasing the birds into the dawn sky. A swirl of wings cuts across the skyline. At 6:15 a.m., Tyson's phone rings. Unknown number. He answers. A trembling voice, an elderly woman in the Bronx, explains that her neighborhood youth center is under threat. Developers are circling. The kids have nowhere to go. She heard about what he did in Brooklyn. Tyson listens quietly. After a long pause, he says, "Text me the address. I'll come take a look." Malik watches him hang up. Another one? Tyson shrugs. They keep trying to break things. Guess we gotta keep fixing him. At 6:30 a.m., they sit on the rooftop edge. Malik pulls out a sketchpad. On the page is a rough drawing. Tyson standing in front of the gym, pigeons overhead. Kids behind him. You draw that? Tyson asks. Yeah, Malik replies. Thought we needed a logo. Tyson smiles faintly. Not bad, kid. The birds circle again, cutting through the morning air. 'Cause used to tell me. Tyson says, fighting is just a tool. Protecting people, that's the mission. They sit for a while longer, just watching. At 7 a.m., the two descend the fire escape, headed to the community center. Another day, another fight. not in the ring, but where it matters. If you like the story, please watch another story on our channel and subscribe to the channel.